Late last year we thought surely the PS4 Pro version of Rise of the Tomb Raider would be the last time we would look at this game, but we were oh so wrong. The original release of the game, Rise of the Tomb Raider on Xbox One, is receiving a brand new patch designed to take advantage of the new Xbox One X, and we spent a solid 30 minutes running through the demo at Gamescom on Microsoft's new machine. Unfortunately, without permission to capture the game, we only have the 2-minute teaser release this week to go by. Even so, there's plenty of opportunity for comparison here. So let's cut to the chase then. The Xbox One X version of Tomb Raider is looking superb, but there has been plenty of questions on how it compares to the PS4 Pro. After all, the Pro version of the game is excellent in its own right and, at least until now, has stood as the best console iteration. Like the Pro version then, Rise of the Tomb Raider on Xbox One offers 3 different modes: a native 4K mode, a high frame rate mode, and an enriched detail mode. Also, like the Pro, this new patch has been crafted primarily by Nixxes, rather than Crystal Dynamics itself, which was responsible exclusively for the original Xbox One release. The trailer we have here appears to use the 4K native mode throughout most of its runtime, which, as the name implies, does increase the resolution to a full 4K. In comparison, the 4K resolution mode on PlayStation 4 Pro uses checkerboard rendering to reach the same pixel count. While the results are excellent on the Pro, there's an increase in image quality and refinement on Xbox One X. It might be a little difficult to see in motion, but still shots do help highlight the improvement. Let's check it out. This is an interesting one. In this scene, we definitely see sharper textures on Xbox One X compared to the PS4 Pro and a sharper overall image. While we're looking at textures, take a close look at Lara's jacket in this scene. There's a lot more detail visible on the Xbox One X version. But you'll also notice additional blur in this scene. What we found is that, at least in the current state, depth of field is dialed back significantly. You get a stronger, shallower effect on the Pro. Now, it's not something tied to resolution either, as you might have suspected, as the better depth of field is used on PC. But of course, the game is not yet released, and this might have been a choice to highlight the higher resolution. We'll find out when it's released. But on the positive side, everything is sharper and clearer here thanks to the improved texture work, which appears to be a match for the highest setting on the PC, and of course the better resolution. Texture filtering was also uniformly excellent as well. When playing it in person, it really does hold up nicely and delivers image quality you'd expect from the PC version of the game, except at just 30 frames per second. Keep in mind that hitting 60 frames per second at 4K is still tough on the PC, and requires settings to be dialed down a tad, even when using a Titan XP. Now, we haven't done a settings comparison yet, which we'll have to wait until the final release, but it's also unlikely that Xbox One X is using the highest possible settings on the PC either. Still, the native 4K mode is looking great, and it's a nice step up from PS4 Pro. Now, the Enriched Mode might actually come closer to hitting those higher settings. On the Pro, this mode sticks to a maximum of 1080p, but improves various details throughout. We looked at this in the original comparison, but ultimately preferred the higher resolution mode. Over on Xbox One X though, we're seeing an interesting compromise. The game switches to a temporal reconstruction technique, not unlike checkerboard rendering, to present a full 4K pixel count, with increased visual details such as tessellation and more refined shadows. Now, the technique used here isn't as effective as the checkerboard solution we see on the PS4 Pro thanks to visible vertical flickering, but from a normal viewing distance it does work rather well and is a huge leap over the 1080p mode available on the Pro. So at this point you get a near 4K experience with near PC levels of detail at 30 frames per second. Now, if you want a higher frame rate, there is of course the high frame rate mode, which again is not well represented in the trailer, but based on our experience with the demo, was very positive. We did, however, sample the entirety of the demo using this mode on Xbox One X, and the performance was very good. Now, on PlayStation 4 Pro, the Prophet's Tomb area already ran close to a solid 60 frames per second, but there were sections towards the end where the frame rate dipped into the 50s. On Xbox One, these same scenes simply didn't drop. The entire chapter was 100% locked at 60 frames per second from start to finish. Of course, this only answers questions as far as the tighter, more scripted levels are concerned. The real bottlenecks on the PS4 Pro were the hub areas, especially the geothermal valley. Performance dropped pretty hard on the Pro during these sequences, so we'll be interested in seeing if Xbox One X can get closer to holding its target frame rate in these demanding sequences. Of course, it's still called high frame rate mode, not 60 FPS mode, so you can probably infer that it won't be locked, but at least based on the demo, it seems that we're looking at something improved over the PS4 Pro. One more interesting thing I noticed when playing the high frame rate mode on Xbox One is the fact that the game uses nearest neighbor scaling rather than a typical bilinear filter. This ultimately means sharper upscaling at the expense of some extra pixelation, but I feel that from a normal viewing distance, this is actually beneficial and looks pretty good here. It's a good choice. Now, it's still early days for this version of the game, but the experience we had with it at Gamescom was enlightening, and suggests that the Xbox One X version of the game will become the best console iteration of Rise of the Tomb Raider upon release. The input latency issues, which were originally problematic on Xbox One, have been entirely eliminated here, and the whole thing is looking very polished indeed. But that's all we have on the game for now. We're certainly looking forward to getting a hold of the final release on Xbox One X so we can finally take one final look at Rise of the Tomb Raider. Unless, of course, another surprise version is released in the future. Rise of the Tomb Raider for Nvidia Shield, anyone? Yeah, not sure that would work out. Maybe on Nintendo Switch? We'll see. Anyways, that's all for now. We'll be back when the final game is released, of course, but if you enjoyed this little preview video, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, and follow us over on Twitter. And until next time, this is John signing off.